Welcome, everybody. We are just getting Mark and Scorpio up on the stage, and in the meantime, we're sharing the link of the space of today with the community, so everyone can join in. I hope you're all having a great day so far, and we are in for a nice ride again today because it's going to be a lot of fun. So just hold on for a minute so we get everyone on board here, and then we'll kickstart the space. Scorpio, I see you're there. You ready already? I know you were about to have a
Hey,
late lunch.
yes, no, I'm already ready set to go.
Perfect. Okay, I see the space is shared in the community, so that's great. And today we also have someone very special with us, which is Marc from the Chijs. Welcome.
Thank you very much. How's it going?
Oh, good, thank you. It's great to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be
And
here. So, yeah.
perfect. All right. Well, I think yeah, we're just doing a casual small talk for a minute or two to really kick it off because we let people join in. Anything
Yeah, would
specific
also
going on your side, Scorpio?
would maybe also be nice to have an intro from Mark since everyone knows that I'm already doing the operations side of Reform. I told it multiple times, so I think everyone is aware. But maybe like an intro from Mark to see where he comes from and who you
Yeah,
are.
sure. Quick introduction. So, my name is Marc Chijs. I'm originally Dutch, well, still Dutch actually, but haven't lived in Holland since, well, about almost 30 years now. Left right after university. Worked for a while at Mercedes-Benz, their headquarters. Worked for them in Indonesia, in China. Quit my job back in 2002, so 22 years ago, became an entrepreneur. And set up what became the YouTube of China, which is called Youku Tudou. Listed it on the Nasdaq back in 2011, sold it to Alibaba for a large sum in 2014. And then around the time got involved in crypto. Early 2013, did my first investments in Bitcoin mostly. Invested in a lot of companies over the years. And then, yeah, basically over the past 10 years, got involved in bringing crypto to the traditional finance masses. For example, I set up a Bitcoin trust in Canada, which became the first Canadian Bitcoin ETF, actually. I set up a Bitcoin mining operation called Hut 8 Mining. That was the first listed Bitcoin company, Bitcoin mining company, also in Canada. I run a Bitcoin investment company called First Block Capital, basically allowing people that don't really know how to invest in crypto to invest in coins or in these. So I've really been involved in a number of companies over the years, bringing crypto to basically traditional finance, and I really enjoy it. I currently mostly live in Asia again. Was in Canada for the past 10 years. Now I'm mostly in Singapore, and also spending more time in Dubai because I really think that's where things are happening at the moment. So very positive about where crypto is going, and I love the space. It really fits to me. I believe in decentralization, and crypto is bringing decentralization to the world.
Amazing. Well, very caring to have you here today, Marc. Nice to have someone from your status. I mean, it sounds so cliche maybe to say, but it's truly an accomplishment what you have done so far. So it's great to have you on board. Let me do a quick introduction for everyone listening, and of course also for Scorpio and for Marc about today. Well, we did a quick introduction of the guest. I assume everyone in the audience knows me, but if you don't know me yet, my name is Paulus. I'm hosting these spaces and the broadcast that we do every week. And I work at Reform marketing department and make sure everything goes smooth when it comes to marketing. Today we actually have two topics and a small Q&A session at the end potentially. We'll start off with Reform news, something we always do, where we dive into the news of the last week, and it's been quite a hectic week. I can already give a little sneak peek that I'm still very bullish, but the market looked a little bit bloody over the last few days. And then we'll do a deep dive interview with Marc. So we're just going to go into some of the details on what Marc already just said on his introduction and ask him some questions. And of course, Scorpio will be involved there as well. Marc, for your knowledge during the news, I'll just read out the news, what happened, and yeah, we just discuss it. I'll ask either you or Scorpio about your opinion on the news.
Okay.
And for everyone listening, we end up with a Q&A session. Obviously, at Marc. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the comments here of the space. We'll have a look there. Based on how many questions there are, we'll host a little Q&A session. If there's not many questions, no need, but we'll see at the end. And before we dive into the news of this week, let's first have a look at the achievements of reform. It's something we look at every week, and it's really looking at the main three topics that we discuss, or the main three things we discuss, which is our three airdrops, which are live. And obviously, very recently, we launched the Reform Academy, which is our built-in platform on Discord where people can learn everything about reform that we've discussed during the broadcasts. We have seen that already over 10,000 people started at the Reform Academy. So they started reading the articles, and over 3,000 of these 10,000 people actually completed the full academy, which I think is amazing to see, because honestly, to complete the academy, you have to go through all the chapters live. You have to actually pass a quiz out the content that's in these chapters, and it's not that easy. So it gives me a very bullish sentiment again on reform, where it just shows that there's a lot of people that know a lot about reform. And 3,000 people did it completely, but there is already 2 weeks of the academy live, which means 4,500 people have completed it in total before. So they haven't completed the last chapter, which just went live. They completed it a week ago, and they are eligible for the academy airdrop. And then the 2 airdrops, what people always ask us in the Discord and in the community. We have the airdrop for the Diamond tier members, where right now over 550 people are eligible. And we have the airdrop for the testnet, where only 3,500 people so far are eligible. So only 3,500 people have completed our testnet tasks. So yeah, I think for next week, we're really going to put some emphasis on making sure a lot more people go to our testnet again. And yeah, we'll complete the task there, because we really need that data, and it really helps us to make sure our dashboards are on point.
Also,
So
important
that's-
question.
Yeah, sure.
Are you still going to dive into the testnet, also the technical specifics? Because it's, of course, down now because of Gurley, or?
Yeah. So we're doing a quick, big update on this very soon, but that won't be today during the space.
Okay.
But yeah, big update on this is following, and yeah, we found a solution for it, so the testnet will be back up and live very soon.
Okay, nice.
Perfect. Okay, then let's dive into the news of this week. Some of the people listening might find it a bit disappointing that we're on an X space instead of our regular broadcast, where we have all the fancy news backgrounds and stuff. But the reason is, of course, that we have Marc here with us today. So yeah, let's start off with the first thing that I saw when I opened my favorite news channel this morning. It's that the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund. That's a lot of words. So basically, BlackRock, which was incorporated in the British Virgin Islands, and they launched a partnership with a company called Securitize, and that's a tokenization firm. And by doing so, they also deposited $100 million in USDC on the Ethereum blockchain. And that, in combination with their pending Ethereum ETF, I think is a very bullish sentiment for Ethereum. What do you think, Scorpio?
Yeah, I think in general, tokenization is, of course, on the chart, and seeing those kind of developments are very good from a BlackRock point of view, stepping more into the tokenization market, crypto market. So that's one very strong thing for sure. And indeed, in relation towards the Ethereum ETF, what you say, it's still on the charts. It's waiting for it to be approved. It's not an if, but a when.
Exactly, that's what I think as well. And Marc, from your side, what's your opinion on
Yeah.
the whole ETF stuff?
Well, I mean, first of all, the ETF, of course, is amazing. I mean, this is really changing the world for traditional finance. I mean, the fact that also BlackRock is now getting into securitization, basically launching these funds, I think it's important, because they are, I would say, the most trusted firm on Wall Street at the moment. I mean, you can see it for the ETFs. Their ETF is the biggest one. So them getting into the space is really important. It shows to investors that this is something people should look at seriously. So I'm very happy about it, and yeah, it's opening up the world of crypto for traditional finance, and that's super important, because so far only a very small percentage of the people is invested in crypto, and through these funds it will become a much bigger, larger percentage. So very positive.
Well, this is also what you've been doing over the last years, right, Marc? Opening it up to making it more accessible for people. So it's indeed a very huge accomplishment in that sense from in the overall space.
No, that's why I'm happy that BlackRock is actually doing it, right? Because that's the big difference. Look, if I set up a fund, that's nice, but it doesn't have a major impact. But if a firm like BlackRock does it, it really shows that this is ready to go mainstream, and that's the last thing that was needed, I think. So it's a good thing that's happening right now. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's extremely bullish. And to be honest, in the other news I saw very recently, I don't. It's not on my list of news items because it was a bit bearish. But the CEO of Vanguard actually said he doesn't believe in Bitcoin. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is, these guys, they've grown up in the traditional finance world for the past 30, 40 years. They were super successful in that world. For them, crypto is dangerous. A, they don't understand it completely, probably. B, they see it as a threat to their organization, a threat to their own position. So they think they can, hold it, they can push back on it and maybe stop it, but you can't stop it anymore. It's way too late. They just don't see it. And it's the old guard. He's leaving this year. There's going to be a new person there. So, Vanguard will be in next year, probably.
Yeah, exactly. You will always have these skepticisms, right? You will always have that. I think it's also good that they, give another side on it. But yeah, indeed, if they do not have enough knowledge or anything, then yeah, they should first teach themselves and then see if they're still so bearish, or indeed come on board next year.
Correct.
Well, looking at the other spectrum, maybe you haven't heard it in our previous broadcast, but Mark, but we actually call them our friends, the guys at MicroStrategy, because they bought another 9,245 bitcoins this week, and yeah, it's amazing to see one company leading the Bitcoin bull run that much. I would say. What's your vision and opinion on MicroStrategy in general, Mark?
Well, look, Michael Saylor is one of the smartest people in the world. Not only as a businessman, but also as a thinker, as a philosopher, and in spreading the word about crypto to the business world, I would say. And so what he's doing is because he's investing his complete treasury and the money he can borrow into Bitcoin. And I think because of this, his company is becoming so successful on the stock exchange that other people will start following it. I really think that people this. So I think it's not just for MicroStrategy important what he's doing, but it's important for companies like Apple, Facebook. They see this. They know what's happening here, and I'm sure they're looking at it. And I think other people will follow fairly soon. Other companies will follow fairly soon, and this is going to lead to another huge inflow of money into the crypto space. So I think Michael is smarter than most, but people who are not as smart, they still can see what he's doing, and they may eventually copy it.
Yeah, and I think also, Mark, in relation to that, of course, I saw you posting last week in regards to the U.S. Treasuries to be able to keep printing money actually and keep buying Bitcoin. Is this also something that you would say Michael Saylor is actually doing, trying to fetch as much money from let's say investors borrowing anything like that to actually buy the Bitcoins to get the biggest position? Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, you basically you borrow in something that's going down and you invest in something that's going up. I mean,
no. It's like the best bet you can take. Yeah.
It's so easy. I mean, if I could borrow money right now, I mean, borrow a lot of money, I would do that. I'd put it in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you can invest it for long term, right? If you don't, the thing is always, you don't want to get gold. That's always, I mean, if something goes down 40, 50%, you get margin called, you lose everything. He solved that problem. He cannot get margin called on these loans. So yeah, I mean, it's the best of both worlds. It's there's no real risk in my opinion. And yeah, he's going to make a lot more money for himself, for the company, and for his shareholders.
Yeah, it's draining one financial system for the other, right? I think it's a very smart bet, but one that's actually robust and not fully inflationary.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that I saw in the news was that in the last 48 hours, almost 2 billion in long positions got liquidated due to the steep downfall of Bitcoin. Well, steep downfall. I mean, it went down 10%, I believe. Do we know? To be honest, I haven't read fully into it. Do we know the exact reason why there was a dive, or was it just a natural correction?
Well, I to me, it's just a natural correction. I mean, it's how the market works, and 10, 20% it's just a small dip in my opinion. I think one thing is a lot of these ETF investors, for example, they are new to crypto. They put money in, and all of a sudden it starts going down. Then people get liquidated, and then they're like, oh, what's going on? Is Bitcoin over? They don't understand it, right? So some of them start selling as well, and that leads to more liquidations, and then you get this. Yeah, I call it a dip. It's not even more than a dip. In my opinion.
Exactly. In crypto terms, this is like just a bad Monday, right?
Bump in the road.
No, and the other thing is, look in this kind of markets, if you're leveraged, you can lose your money. You can either make a lot of money or you lose it all. And I don't really use leverage. These people that get liquidated, that's their own fault. I mean, you play with fire. It could go very well or you lose it all. So
yeah, exactly. That's part of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely true. All right. I saw a post about the Chartered Bank which did a price target for Bitcoin before, and they actually raised it now. And they think that by the end of 2024, Bitcoin will be over $150,000. And by 2025, they even think it will be over $250,000. Mark, I'm very curious. Obviously, I'm fine if you say I don't do predictions, but any
Yeah, I actually made a model 2 weeks ago that I published on Twitter. It's a very simple model, actually based mostly on a multiplier on ETF inflows and outflows. And the model led me to a price of, I think, 195,000 by the end of this year, and 240 or 250 by next year. So that's my current prediction. It really depends on inflows into the ETF. So these need to keep on going. I mean, if they stop, then it doesn't work. But I mean, generally, I'm extremely bullish about where things are going with crypto. And I think, we may even be in a super cycle where we don't even have major dips anymore. I mean, for me, a 10-20% dip is not a bear market, right? So it may even be that we just keep on going with small dips. And that's, I mean, the sky's the limit. Eventually, I think we're going to get to much higher numbers than even the 250,000.
Yeah, and also, Mark, in regards to, of course, the ETF, now there's inflow, and you took that as a calculation, but it's also some sort of network effect amongst the traditional finance, right? So now small group actually starts, and the more access actually people get to these ETFs, the actually, bigger the inflow will be, right? It's like, so it could even be bigger in that sense.
Yeah, so what I think is going to happen is that pension funds will start investing in these things. And because they can do it now through the ETF, they couldn't really do it before. And I think we're underestimating what could happen there. First of all, you're going to get a constant inflow of new money. So not a one-time thing, but like every single month, new money is coming in. Second of all, once a few pension funds are doing this, they look at each other and they see that the ones that put money in Bitcoin actually are outperforming. And not outperforming a little bit, but by a large margin. And that will lead other people to look at it. And it's, that's the network effect you're talking about. And that could be significant. And it's something that people don't really look at the moment. People are only looking at mostly retail, high net worths getting in, but not pension funds yet.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, sorry, one more question. But do you also think that, let's say, these pension funds are already allowed? They're like internal processes to do it, or because it's of course now for a few months, like two months at most. I think they are already tipping in. So do you think like these processes will take much longer for them to adopt it, but also in that case eventually leading towards more inflows in the future?
Yeah, that takes a lot of time. I mean, the way it works with pension funds is they're very conservative. Their investment committees are very worried. They're not allowed to lose money, basically, right? They should, because losing money is dangerous for them. Once they realize actually that Bitcoin actually leads to long-term capital gains instead of short, it's volatile. I think a lot of them will eventually adopt a small percentage into Bitcoin, but it's going to take time. It is not, most of them I think cannot do it right now. It's a process that takes months, maybe more than maybe years sometimes for some of them. But the moment they start doing it, eventually they're going to get in, and it's a long-term process, but they will.
Yeah, I can even shed some light on that as well, because it's actually one of the news topics of today. Because the world's largest pension fund, which is Japanese, and they're worth $1.4 trillion, are currently considering and stating that it's very likely that very soon they will add Bitcoin to their portfolio.
Oh, okay.
That's so nice. So it's I guess, I mean, I haven't looked at exactly what pension funds are out there and how that exactly would work, but with them being in the world and Japanese, which is I think it's if there is a Dutch saying, I know I won't say it in English, but something with sheeps and a dam, and I think if it happens and that they will get it, a lot will follow soon.
Absolutely. I mean, if it's the biggest pension fund in the world, everybody looks at that. Everybody looks at it. It's any portfolio manager at a pension fund will look like, hey, they're looking at Bitcoin. Hey, we should look as well. I mean, that's how it works. It's you don't want to be left behind.
Yeah, it's the same effect as you mentioned with MicroStrategy, right? MicroStrategy is leading that on, let's say, an entrepreneurial and company point of view, and then indeed, this Japanese pension fund is doing it in that sort of case. So, in that case, the network effect is progressing nicely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. Well, and it just looks even more bullish week in, week out, because last week I spoke with Scorpio about Bitcoin surpassing silver as an asset class. And now there was a large analysis done by JP Morgan who stated that Bitcoin surpassed gold in the average investor portfolio allocation by 3.7 times.
Okay,
I haven't seen that, but that's unlikely actually. That must be based on, I don't know. I mean, given that the gold market cap is still a factor 10 higher than Bitcoin, that seems like I don't know how they calculate that, but I mean, the average investor certainly doesn't have more Bitcoin than gold, I think. But I don't know. I need to look at the study.
No, it's not the total. It's more that they the amount that they currently allocate in their portfolio. So when they look at adding more towards their portfolio.
Okay. So new things. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, Bitcoin is 3.7 times bigger in that list than gold is.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then it will grow quite fast, right? And reaching the market cap of gold as long as they keep rebalancing the portfolios.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, of course, right? But what we seem to forget is that, these funds that invest in Bitcoin, if Bitcoin doubles, and say they want to have 1% Bitcoin in the beginning, Bitcoin doubles, their allocation becomes 2%. They will need to sell to go back to 1%.
Yeah.
That's going to have an impact as well. And I think, with gold, for example, gold having an all-time high actually at the moment, some of them will need to sell a bit of gold to rebalance it, and they may put that into Bitcoin. So that's an effect that plays a role potentially as well here.
Yeah.
And do you think they will still sell it because they say we only want 1%, even though they understand the potential in a couple of years is that it becomes 10, 20, 30%?
Well, the thing is, they have guidelines, right? Their investment committee set guidelines, and if the guideline is 1%, you cannot just you can if it goes up a lot, you can keep it for a bit, but eventually you need to sell, or you need to go back to the investment committee and change the guidelines. I think eventually the guidelines will change. Look, if your best performing asset, if you need to sell it all the time, and you see that in other companies like Arc Invest, they keep on selling their best performing assets like Coinbase stock. Eventually they will change the allocation because they realize that you don't want to keep selling your best performing assets. So it will go from 1% to 2% to 5%. Eventually, I think Bitcoin is going to be, or crypto in general, will be like 20-25% of all portfolios, I think. But that's going to be, there's maybe a decade down the road.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I saw that right now there's only 5,000 blocks remaining until the halving, which is about days. We spoke about it before, Scorpio. Did your predictions or expectations change from the halving?
No, actually not. So actually, you see it happening already this week, like a small dip. So it actually broke, of course, the all-time high of the Bitcoin price. She followed then, with a small dip as of now. I would still see it like consolidating around these levels, and just opening up some air, so to say, because it was only up, of course, over the past few months. And I think it's also good, right? It's healthy. It's strong, and then after the halving, we will see acceleration for sure, because the miner reward will get cut in half, and historically, there's always been a very good moment for Bitcoin afterwards.
And
I mean, look, the halving, I think it's getting less and less important. I think it's more of a marketing event actually than anything else at the moment. I mean, from 900 to 450 Bitcoin per day, it's really not that much difference anymore. There's an impact for sure, but it's not a major impact. But it's good because it brings more people into Bitcoin in the sense that they hear about it. They're like, huh, what is happening? They look at it. That's good. But the direct impact, I think, it's not that big. The real impact is that people start looking at Bitcoin again and realizing, wow. And also the narrative, of course, that it goes up every time after the halving. That will help. It's self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Exactly. That's true. Yeah.
You look at the past and like, oh, it always went up after halving. Then it's probably going to happen again this time. And because of that, it will likely happen.
Yeah. I mean, there will be more shortage indeed. And one of the things that I find interesting is that I believe at the moment the ETFs buy for 14 times more Bitcoins per day than we're capable of producing on a day, because the 900 you mentioned. So that will be 28 times more than in a month from now. I guess those need to be bought from the people that were already in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But at one point, I guess you'll reach a threshold where everyone in Bitcoin is going to be that type of person that's like, no, I'm not going to sell because I know where this is going.
This is also an important part, of course, whereby you can see, for example, the outflows on exchanges, measuring the Bitcoin that's outflowing, and that's actually increasing by the day. So that's a really good sign. But this could eventually indeed lead also towards some sort of liquidity shock, whereby there's not enough liquidity available on all the exchanges to suffice for the people or entities that want to buy Bitcoins.
Yeah, I agree, and that's actually why I think that potentially if that happens, target of 250,000 for next year. Maybe way too low, actually. We really cannot imagine what could happen. I remember, when I got into Bitcoin in 2013. I remember then when GBTC started. Actually, I knew the guys there when they started the company, and I put a little bit of money actually in GBTC at the very beginning. It was October 1st, 2013. Bitcoin was around $100. Literally, 2 months later, 2.5 months later, it was at $1,000. It did a 10x. I mean, you can't believe it when it happens in front of your eyes. You're like, what? And it could happen again. We're at 60,000 now, whatever at the moment. It could be 600,000, in a couple of months from now. But nobody can imagine that it's possible until it happens. So, and it's really about a supply shock in this case. And at a certain point, if things really start growing up faster and faster, indeed nobody wants to sell. And until you get to a level, people think, okay, now it's so high, I'm just going to sell 1 or 2 Bitcoin or whatever they have, and and then that's going to be interesting, and that's something you cannot really predict if it will happen and when it will happen. But I do think eventually it might happen. Yeah.
Very interesting. While we're doing this space, I'm just buying some more bits because I'm getting very bullish right now.
You can never have enough.
Exactly.
It's true.
Well, there's quite some more topics that I had on my list, but also time is ticking on. So we can dive into the whole Solana going crazy at the moment as well. But I think 1 or 2 of the interesting things that I wanted to dive in are a little bit less crypto specifically. One is that CZ, the old CEO of Binance, he launched a new project, which is a purely educational project, he says. There's not much known of the rest. What do you guys expect from this?
Well, I mean, look, he wants to do something, right? And he wants to lay low a little bit. I mean, he's going to end up in jail for a couple of months at least. So I guess he wants to look good. That's one thing. Second of all, I know CZ a little bit from the past, and he's a good guy, I think, actually. And he has kids. So having kids means you start looking at other things, than just crypto potentially. So I think it's a good thing. He wants to do something back for the world. And it's not going to be something that he's going to make a lot of money on. I think that's not his aim at all. He wants to do something back for the world, I think.
Yeah, I think it was also mentioned in his tweet. He has even like no revenue model whatsoever. It's just indicating giving back from probably his finance journey. And the opportunity there was, I also saw that it was mentioned on the bottom, like you get to work with CZ personally. So I think a lot of people are also like in crypto, adoring this.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to look into today was AI news. Actually, Apple bought a company called Darwin AI. If you're a little bit read into the whole AI bonanza over the last few years, you probably have heard of them. And they're a company specializing in making AI systems more compact without any of the speed that it has. What do you think that the future is going to be with AI, Mark, in general?
Well, I mean, I'm extremely positive about where the world is going with AI, in the sense that, it will make our lives a lot easier. I mean, I now already, I use ChatGPT on a daily basis, right? If it's going to be integrated in other products, it's going to be, it's going to be part of our lives. But I'm also worried about it, in the sense that, because I think it's going to take most jobs. If you look at these AI robots that came out, you saw the video maybe this week or whenever it came out, it's scary what they can do already, how quickly they become better. I think literally most jobs can be done by AI in the future. And the question is, the money that the companies save by using robots, where is it going? Because the average person, that loses their jobs, they don't have money anymore. That's something that worries me. So we need to solve that problem, I think. So AI is super positive, but the downside to really look at, because we can't stop it anymore. So we have to embrace it, and I'm doing this, but we have to figure out how we can stop the negative side effects of it.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think it's interesting to see, because indeed a lot of the manpower will be gone, the need for the manpower. I do think that will shift an impact on a lot of prices. I think prices will go down, which is positive, of course. Because, for example, and I think it's a big employer, and I think it's a funny example because everyone in crypto, when the bear market starts, goes back to working there, apparently. That's McDonald's. McDonald's actually looked into opening their first McDonald's fully run robots, which are AI integrated. So they basically, they run the whole show in the back, and there's no need for any more there.
There you already have the first example, right? How it's actually going to take a lot of jobs, what Mark just said. So that's quite interesting. But I also think it indeed will cost a lot of jobs, and it will make people make it more difficult for people to earn money. It will also open up a lot of time, right? Because a lot of things will be taken with AI. So it really depends on how the economy will be structured in a later stage when AI is fully developed. Because if AI is taking care of most of the things that are ongoing within the world, then what is the role of humans, right? In that sense, is it just enjoying life and whatever, or is it really that they still need to work for their money and make sure that they can suffice for everything? So it's really an interesting topic where you can talk about, for ages, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably gets a bit too philosophical and political if we
Philosophical, yeah,
dive in.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's definitely interesting. And to just quickly dive a little bit further into a side angle of it, and then especially I'm very curious to your opinion on it, Mark. What do you think about AI and Web3?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think AI and Web3 it's. I mean, like with everything, AI will help every sector on Web3 as well. I think specifically, it can be used to get to have better and safer smart contracts, for example, to build dApps more easily, give insights into blockchains. For example, LLMs can read blockchains and make it readable for humans to see what's really going on, to spot trends, to make things more transparent. So yeah, it's a logical thing that it's happening, and yeah, I mean you see it happening in already all around us in Web3, and even simple things like NFT creations, right? I mean, you want to get a new kind of Bored Ape. Well, she can literally let AI make these things for you, right? And it's there's no artist involved anymore, basically, and or you use the creativity of AI to come up with a new series of NFTs. So it's everywhere, and it's a good thing. Yeah.
Scorpio?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with Mark. There are so many things possible with AI, and especially also in Web3. So yeah, I was also thinking when Mark was talking about the fact that indeed blockchain transparency is very important, because now, yeah, you're searching wallet by wallet, ether scans, chain analysis, all those kind of things. But yeah, even even on that side, you can really improve that and make it even more fast by letting the AI search for specific wallets, and if they have to do something with other wallets to see if there's like a network or that they're connected to each other for some malicious activity. So in that sense, I think it can improve a lot of things, and we just have to take care or look out for the fact that it's also going to be said and used by a lot of parties. While it's maybe even not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen a lot of integration so far already. Collecting and processing of data in general, and I think that's applying very much to the Web3 space as well. So that does align with what you both said. Okay, well then I would say let's leave the news for what it is and dive into a more, I would say, interesting topic, which is a quick deep dive with Mark himself. Obviously, Mark, I would start with can you share a bit about yourself and your background? But you already did that. Maybe you can do a very small recap for the people that are in here, since we have over 250 people here already now.
Yep, sure. Very quickly, I'm Dutch originally, but haven't lived in Holland since almost 30 years now. Currently, mostly live in Asia and in Singapore, and spend time in Canada as well. I've been in crypto since 2013. After I retired, I set up a large online video company in China called Yoku Tudo. We took it public on the Nasdaq, and that allowed me to retire at 39. So got into Bitcoin in 2013. Set up a number of companies in the crypto space. Among others, a company that became the first Bitcoin ETF in Canada. Another company was Hut 8 Mining, which is a large publicly listed Bitcoin mining company. I run a company called First Block Capital, which is a investment company. So I've done a lot in the space over the past 10, 11 years, and just still do a lot of work. I'm not really involved in a lot of companies as an advisor. I think actually Reformdao is the only one I'm an advisor for at the moment. I'm also active a bit in the climate space, a company called Climate Aid, basically looking to mitigate the problems of climate change and help to solve those. That's something I'm passionate about. Just enjoying what I like to do. That's most important, but with a focus on crypto.
Nice, great to hear. All right, and well, I guess the first thing, maybe it's a bit direct, but hey, you're Dutch anyway. So, what was your reason to become an advisor for Reform?
Yeah, so I met the guys, Scorpio and the others, about a year ago, I think, and started following what they were doing. I was quite impressed actually with what they were working on, and I felt like this is something I could potentially add some value to. And over time, I decided, what, it's interesting. I want to see what I can do here and help. And eventually that led to becoming an advisor a couple of weeks ago. So that's where I am.
All right, that's indeed short but to the point. And Scorpio, why did you reach out to Mark in the capacity of him becoming an advisor? I mean, I guess it speaks for itself, but
Yeah, of course, you heard the whole background. So he has a ton of experience with entrepreneurship landscape, and I think that's for us, pioneering and setting up something that's completely new, very important because we also know that Mark did some things, in his entrepreneurial journey that were also quite innovative or like out of his sort of comfort zone. And I think that's just also what we're doing, and yeah, very much aligning with him because based on his experience, we can learn a lot of things before we actually make any mistakes or changes or whatsoever. So yeah, in that case, the experience of Mark is just of utmost value of us, whereby he can just review and think with us on changes or implementations of reform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that does lead me indeed to my next question because, Mark, now that you're in your new role within Reform, what do you think will be? I mean, I wrote down primary objectives or areas of focus, but that's maybe a little bit too, um, yeah, I don't know, too official. But what is something that you think you will be spending much time on to help the project and the brand?
I think there's two areas. I mean, first of all, it is of course my experience in starting companies and making them to large companies. I've done that a couple of times, and so if you've seen it all before, it's easier to spot problems and help solve them. So I think that's one area. So help solve problems in growing a company. Second, I think it's my network. Not only in the crypto space, but also in traditional finance, in projects that may launch, and specifically also in Asia and North America. I mean, so it's a different kind of network probably than the team has. And these are things I think are the two most important focus areas where I can help. There's other things, but these are the most important ones.
Okay, okay. Um, and you said it a little bit already, Scorpio, but is this in line with the expectations that you have for Mark as an advisor?
Yeah, well, for sure, because we of course with Mark, talked a lot of times before, actually set all the lines out, and we determined, okay, what will be the things that we'll be doing together. So yeah, for sure, it's not that we're saying like, hey Mark, you want to become an event, and okay, next day you are it, and then just for the sake of okay us knowing each other. No, it's really like okay, also bound on other the most important areas that Mark just mentioned. So it's something that has been thought through and made sure that it's going to be value add.
Yeah, well, great to hear. And Mark, I wrote down, and it's something that we've discussed already quite a lot, but given your insight and experiences, where do you think that the future of the crypto market is heading? But maybe let's not dive into the market, but where do you think the future of market making is going to be?
So yeah, I think market making will have to be more decentralized. I think there's a number of large companies, centralized companies running the market making space at the moment. I think that may not be sustainable if good decentralized market makers are out there, simply because decentralized companies are generally more aligned, they're more transparent, and because of that, better experience for everyone. So that's one reason also why I joined the Reform DAO, because I really feel this is where market making is heading eventually, and I think if we can make the difference there. So yeah, that's an important part for me to joining and to that's where I think it's heading. The decentralization part is super important to me.
Do you also think that's some of the key, or that's basically the key challenge that the broader crypto landscape is at today?
Well, there's a number of key challenges, and so one thing I think is usability. For me, I think that's something that we're underestimating, and most people on this space are probably younger than I am. I'm in my early 50s. If I see the guys around me, my friends in traditional finance, or people in running companies, they're not able to use crypto that well. They just don't understand how it works. They're afraid of hardware wallets. They're afraid of connecting a wallet, or don't even know what it means, right? I think usability is a very important part. So that's a big challenge, I think, that hasn't been solved yet for crypto. That needs to be solved. We're solving this partly through things like an ETF, where people can just buy it through clicks in their brokerage account, but that's not sufficient. So I think usability is an important part. The other challenge I'm seeing is regulations. I mean, generally, I'm against regulations, but I also realize you need them to grow. In order to get institutions in order to get the wealthy investors into the space, you need regulations. But then the challenge is to not get over-regulated, and that is another thing we have to worry about. So need to take care of that. It's not going to happen, because if we get the same regulations as the banks have, it becomes impossible to work So these are two things that I think are the two biggest challenges at the moment. And that's also going to face reform in a way, I guess. We want to make sure it's usable for people. We want to make sure that it's workable with regulations surrounding it.
Yeah, because indeed, one of the things that also comes to mind when you were saying this, to me at least, is the whole privacy or the whole security thing. And for example, the responsibility is way more with the individual. Where if you transfer money between banks and you put a wrong account number, for example, or so, the bank will revert the transfer and they will jump in. But obviously with crypto, if I send my money to a wrong wallet, end of the game,
Yep.
it's gone. So do you think it's a good or a bad thing that there's more responsibility on the individual?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, people become too lazy. It's like, oh, I lost my password. I'll send click on a link and I'll get a new password. That's not how it works in crypto, and that's good. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of people losing their wallets and a lot of people losing their their coins, their tokens, because they don't really they didn't really understand that they're responsible for what they're doing. But I think it's a good thing. It's people have to be responsible for for the things they do and not rely on large centralized organizations. So yeah, I think it's good. I applaud it.
Yeah, and don't you think it will be a much bigger entry barrier eventually for the masses to get adopted to crypto? Or do you think that larger entities within the Web3 industry will create, I would say, like I can see banks running completely on a blockchain, but the user experience is done, I guess, centralized still.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big believer that companies like Coinbase will be one of the largest companies in the world eventually. They may become the largest bank in the world, whatever bank means in that case, simply because they're able to give the interface to the people that they expect to get. I don't think the average person, at least not over the next 10, 20 years, will start using hardware wallets and do everything themselves. There's going to be centralized companies for a while, but these centralized companies will also work with, they will also have a decentralized exchange. They will have their own tokens. They will help with DeFi. So there's like a centralized entity you can use for a fee to get into crypto. And then eventually, I think the next step is going to be that people that they understand that actually it's better to do it themselves. And when hardware wallets get easier to use, I think people will start using them and keep their own keys and not be reliant on large centralized organizations.
Yeah. Somewhere, to me personally, it feels, we're moving everything into the cloud and everything online, and then a hardware wallet seems a bit a step back, but I guess it's a step forward, of course, within crypto. Interesting. And Scorpio, everything Mark has just said about the challenges facing the broader crypto landscape, for example, how do you think these challenges will have an impact on reform?
So that's an interesting one. So yeah, of course, well, the last topic in regards to banks and everything, let's say the custodial wallets, non-custodial wallets, people using hardware wallets. Well, I think making it possible for people to participate within the Reform DAO ecosystem is by participating in the bonding treasury. Hereby, you need a hardware wallet. So of course, integrations here from, let's say, banks or anything like that will make it more easy and convenient. I think Coinbase is doing a very good job on that sense. That side, is of course a very important part also for us. I think for reform, letting people participate is one of the most key things to let them become part of, let's say, a market maker. But other than that, we're also focused very much on centralized exchanges because we still see that there's a lot of volume still there. Custodians are a very big part there that actually mirror coins and tokens towards the exchange. But all in all, you want to pivot eventually towards decentralized exchanges, but you just see that the usability, well, if you check hardware wallets and then decentralized exchanges is an extra step on top of that, it's still too difficult for people to comprehend. And also that needs to have a very friendly user interface for people to actually use. And then in the back end, for example, with Unis 4, you also need market makers to focus liquidity on specific points to actually make it more interesting for people to trade. And I think that's also where reform is most likely going to focus on for the coming years, pivoting from, because I really think it will happen. It will only not happen within a year or maybe even 2 years or 3 years. But the decentralization also of exchanges will be a very big thing. And that's something where reform really needs to be on top of, because that's of course where the whole market makers is based on and where we are active in as a DAO.
Yeah, all right, absolutely. And Mark, obviously we spoke a little bit about the challenges facing the broader crypto industry, crypto landscape. Are there also specific key opportunities that we haven't discussed yet that you are interesting to mention?
Well, I mean, we already talked about it, right? It's the adoption of institutions and mass retail of crypto. That's really the opportunity here. Only a small percentage of the people owns crypto, and even smaller percentage owns a lot of crypto. I think that's going to change. People will start using crypto in daily life, often not realizing they're using it. But that's really where the opportunity is. It's in the masses coming in going from a niche industry to something that's basically used everywhere, and that's going to be amazing over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and in that sense, what you mentioned, right? It's from a financial point of view, a super good opportunity. But I think also in regards to freedom, it's also a huge opportunity for people, because here you're now bound to a traditional system everyone needs to be part of, because otherwise you cannot move within society. But I think this will create a huge sort of freedom for people, whereby everyone owns an asset, can do with their assets what they want, travel to any country that they want with their assets, and it creates sort of a borderless world, which is also, I think, a huge opportunity, but not necessarily on a financial part, but more on a, freedom side or something.
Yeah,
good point.
Absolutely. Well, I had the next question for Marc, but actually we discussed that already, which is your opinion on the integration of AI within the Web3 space. So let me flip this around a little bit. So Scorpio, I wanted to close off with you by asking if you can maybe give a sneak peek into the AI integrations at Reform. And then maybe Marc, if it's the first time hearing about it, you can give your opinion on it.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think, what we just mentioned, there's a lot of possibilities with AI as well in the market making industry and the financial services. So with market making, it's of course very important to maintain a specific inventory management, which we touched upon like Fast2. But there's inventory management based on the asset and the currency. Let's take an example like Bitcoin and Chainlink. And then, rebalancing this inventory determines, let's say, the profitability that you can create of your market making algorithm. So here actually comes AI, because you can rebalance your inventory with a future prediction of, let's say, 1 to 3 seconds in the future. It's very small, let's say, in terms of how far the time is. But this is also the most realistic time that you can actually predict based on historical price movements or any other indicators that you're measuring. So that's one of the biggest implementations in Reform as a market maker, to actually rebalance inventory based on data that actually in the past, but to predict something which is going to be like 1 to 2, 3 seconds in the future. It's not per se going to be the 100% accurate prediction, but it's more like a chance. So you can, based on the chance, you can actually rebalance your inventory and see, and make sure that you're actually using that chance to optimize it properly. If it all makes sense.
To me, it does. Very interesting. I'm very curious if it made sense to Marc. I think it did, but also what your opinion is, Marc.
No, it does make sense for sure. So I think, look, anything that makes a company or an organization more efficient is good. And I think AI is making Reform more efficient. It leads to fairer prices, leads to a better outcome for everybody, for all the stakeholders. So yeah, I mean, it's a great thing, and I'm glad to see that we're working on this and that we're integrating it and using it to make the organization better.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's a lot of information on this coming very soon. I believe by the end of the week we'll start sharing a lot of details on how this works and obviously the benefits of it. So I would recommend to put on your notifications, stay tuned in what Reform is doing, because there's so much that is still yet to come. Well, guys, I had a quick look at the comment section, and I haven't seen any specific comments towards you, Marc. There are some questions which are general questions around Reform, which we will happily answer in a Discord AMA or within our community. But also seeing we're closing in on the hour here, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. So, Marc, maybe closing statements from your side.
Well, closing statements. Thanks for letting me join. I enjoyed it. I look forward to a bright future with Reform and being actively involved in the organization. I hope we're able to make a difference in the world and make market making available to smaller projects in a more transparent way.
Well, beautifully said. I think that's spot on. Where I align myself with as well. Scorpio, anything from your side?
Yeah, no, just want to make a huge thanks to Marc for joining and giving his opinion on everything that has been discussed. And we're not starting this project for nothing, so that's also why we want to make a big difference in the market making space, making it more transparent and fair. in comparison to how it's now being done behind most of the time closed doors. Let's make a big change altogether.
Amazing. Well, Marc, thanks again for joining. It was lovely to have you here, and it was great to get all these insights from you. Scorpio, thanks for being here today again. My trusted partner in all the spaces and broadcasts, of course. And everyone listening, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you had a great time, and it was as interesting for you as for us to listen to Marc. And thanks everyone, and we hope to see you again next week.
Yes,
All right.
thank you
Thanks,
very
lads.
much. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.